Number three, can you please tell the American people what these leaders in Congress already know, what you already know, what you've told me 3 times, that I'm not personally under investigation?
Those are the 3 things he asked. Yes, sir.
You know, this investigation is full of leaks left and right. I mean, we've learned more from the newspapers sometimes than we do from our open hearings, for sure. You ever wonder why, of all the things in this investigation, the only thing that's never been leaked is the fact that the president was not personally under investigation, despite the fact that both Democrats and Republicans and the leadership of Congress knew that and have known that for weeks?
I don't know. I find matters that are briefed to the Gang of 8 are pretty tightly held, in my experience.
Finally, who are those senior leaders at the FBI that you shared these conversations with?
As I said in response to Senator Feinstein's question, Deputy Director, the FBI's mission will be relentlessly pursued by its people, and that mission is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution of the United States. I will deeply miss being part of that mission, but this organization and its mission will go on long beyond me and long beyond any particular administration. I have a message before I close for my former colleagues of the FBI, but at first I want the American people to know this truth. The FBI is honest, the FBI is strong, and the FBI is and always will be independent. And now to my former colleagues, if I may. I am so sorry that I didn't get the chance to say goodbye to you properly. It was the honor of my life to serve beside you, to be part of the FBI family, and I will miss it for the rest of my life. Thank you for standing watch. Thank you for doing so much good for this country. Do that good as long as ever you can.
And that was about at 10 a.m. this morning that former Director Comey spoke. We're going to get to your phone calls. I want to show you this, though, from the Hill. They had a closed session after they had this open session. And according to the Hill, Comey told senators about possible third Sessions Russia meeting that had not been reported before. And interestingly, Attorney General Jeff Sessions has this tweet from May 9th pinned to the top of his Twitter feed. And it says that interesting that Senator Schumer, the Democratic leader, thought that Obama's Department of Justice can investigate themselves on Hillary, IRS abuses, and Fast and Furious. Faye in Phoenix, Oregon, did you see, Republican line, did you see the hearing today, and what do you think?
Yes, I did. This is Faye Heighton from Phoenix, Oregon. I just wanted to say that 3 things. I'm 77 years old. I have never seen a more honest man in politics, man or woman. And 3, Comey for president in 2020.
That's Faye on our Republican line, and Daniela's on the Independent line. And she's from Mechanicville, New York. Hi, Daniela.
Yeah, hi. Hey, listen, I'm a Ron Paul libertarian. I was for Rand Paul until President Trump got the nomination, and then I voted for him. I voted straight Republican. I have 3 things to say. I watched the hearing twice. Number 1, Comey not only perjured himself more than once during his testimony, he actually outed himself as a leaker. Now, whatever he made that little speech about the FBI is honest, this, and that, trying to wrap himself in the honesty of the agency as if, because the agency is honest, that he is. It's incredibly offensive. The man is awful. He was actually unfit to be the FBI director just for being a leaker, and then he proved himself to be a perjurer. I hope they prosecute. I hope they investigate Comey. And really, it's shameful. It is absolutely shameful. And he sits up there, and the latest narrative from the mainstream media is, a foreign power tried to hack or tried to infiltrate or whatever our democracy, trying to keep that rush alive. It's awful, absolutely.
That's Daniela
awful.
in Mechanicville, New York, and this is Patricia, a Democrat in Hollywood, Florida. Go ahead, Patricia.
Hi, good evening. I did watch the hearing today, and honestly, I feel that the termination of James Comey was an atrocity against our government. It is a shame that the president would approach someone involved in an investigation and ask for him to be loyal and to say to him, I hope that you'll be loyal, almost threatening him with his job, which inevitably he did get fired. I want to see this thing go through. I hope it is handled properly and fairly, but I do certainly believe that there is wrongdoing, and I want to thank James Comey for his dedication to our country.
That's Patricia on our Democrats line. Well, Richard Burr is a Republican from North Carolina, and Senator Burr is the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, just reelected in 2016. Here's what he had to say.
Director, did the special counsel's office review and or edit your written testimony?
No.
Do you have any doubt that Russia attempted to interfere in the 2016 elections?
None.
Do you have any doubt that the Russian government was behind the intrusions in the DNC and the DCCC systems and the subsequent leaks of that information?
No, no doubt.
Do you have any doubt that the Russian government was behind the cyber intrusion into state voter files?
No.
Do you have any doubt that officials of the Russian government were fully aware of these activities?
No doubt.
Are you confident that no votes cast in the 2016 presidential election were altered?
I'm confident. By the time when I left as director, I'd seen no indication of that whatsoever.
Director Comey, did the president at any time ask you to stop the FBI investigation into Russian involvement in the 2016 U.S. elections?
Not to my understanding, no.
Did any individual working for this administration, including the Justice Department, ask you to stop the Russian investigation?
No.
Director, when the president requested that you, and I quote, let Flynn go, General Flynn had an unreported contact with the Russians, which is an offense. And if press accounts are right, there might have been discrepancies between facts and his FBI testimony. In your estimation, was General Flynn at that time in serious legal jeopardy? And in addition to that, do you sense that the president was trying to obstruct justice or just seek for a way for Mike Flynn to save face, given he had already been fired?
Well, General Flynn at that point in time was in legal jeopardy. There was an open FBI criminal investigation of his statements in connection with the Russian contacts and the contacts themselves. And so that was my assessment at the time. I don't think it's for me to say whether the conversation I had with the president was an effort to obstruct. I took it as a very disturbing thing, very concerning, but that's a conclusion I'm sure the special counsel will work towards to try and understand what the intention was there and whether that's an offense.
Director, is it possible?
Are you a supporter of President Trump?
I am, but I've become more and more so because I think I continue to see these orchestrations of and really a witch hunt. I feel sorry for him. I don't think he's a seasoned Washington pro, but I do think he has the best interest of the people and the country in mind. I hope we give him a chance to prove it, because these little tirades by the media as well as the FBI and it seems like every other organization continue to hurt us. Frankly, I had dinner with two Russian families. I was in a bed and breakfast in Savannah, Georgia in the last 2 months. I found them delightful. I hope we continue to have conversations with the Russians, the Japanese, the North Koreans, and any other adversary. I don't know that the Russians have done anything adversarial to us. We act like we're scared to death of the Russians. Why?
That's Brian in southern Indiana. Jim is calling in from Port Charlotte, Florida, Republican line. Good evening, Jim. You're on C-SPAN.
Good evening. I just wanted to say that from what I'm seeing on on TV and C-SPAN, there's no obstruction of justice. And basically what it boils down to is Comey's word against Trump's word, frankly. There's just nothing there. And I'd just like to say that Congress to stop wasting our money with these hearings and spend it straightening out the country, we probably wouldn't have a deficit right now.
What did you think of your senators questioning today? Marco Rubio's on the Intelligence Committee. Did you see the hearing?
I heard something on the radio about it. I didn't see the hearing. I just watched, because I was at work, but I saw some of the things tonight on it. Marco brought up some good points. I think one, what was it about the? I really don't remember what he said, but I know Marco brought up some good points. I know when he said it, I realized it was a good point to bring up. But to be honest with you, these hearings are a waste of time. Countries they're all trying to interfere with everybody else's elections all the time. I mean, other countries do it all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if we even do it to other countries. But, leaking classified information, that's where the harm comes from. That's where we give foreign countries the ammo to harm our country. So, like they used to say during the Second World War, loose lips sink ships.
All right. And Jim in Port Charlotte, Florida, let's leave it there. Jim brought up the issue of obstruction of justice, and the New York Times already has an editorial written by Norman Eisen and Noah Bookbinder. Norman Eisen served as the White House ethics lawyer for President Obama, and Noah Bookbinder is the executive director of a group called Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. They write that Jim Comey made a case for obstruction of justice. Perhaps the most important of the outstanding questions concern President Trump's motives. Why did the president want the Flynn case dropped? Was it simply to do a favor for a friend, or was it because that friend had information that would be damaging to the president, such as his potential ties to Russia? What evidence is there of such ties, including in the statements of the president and his sons, or the president's tax returns? The uglier the motive, the stronger the obstruction case, is what they write. That's in the New York Times. Next call is John in Chesapeake Beach, Maryland. Hi, John, Democrat.
Hi, good morning. You just had a really good case here about obstruction of justice, and the thing that you've just said is what's going on. Everything that's happening. What am I trying to say here? President Trump's going up to Jim Comey and telling him to basically drop this case. If your boss came up to you and said, I saw you do something wrong, and I hope you can just let it go, for God's sake, I could do something really bad to you. That right there is a threat to Jim Comey, and it has no place in politics. And the other obstruction of justice that could possibly be an overlying thing in this whole charade going on is that the president has no credibility at all, while Jim Comey has all of the credibility in the world. Jim Comey, a decorated federal prosecutor, deputy federal, and FBI director, has the most credibility of any law enforcement official in the United States. While Donald Trump has basically none. He's lied to the American people over and over and over again, promises after promises that have been broken. So in this whole credibility battle, I think we have to give it to Jim Comey, and the president has no say in this.
All right, we're going to take a couple more calls, and we're going to show you more of the hearing. This is Dan in Lincoln, Illinois, Independent Line. Hi, Dan.
Yeah, excuse me. After all the hoopla, the build-up over the last couple of weeks, or last week or so, what did we really find out today? Just a rehash of everything that, the news media has been feeding us here, since, back in May, first part of May. I don't think anything new has been brought forth, but I got to ask the question, does anybody really think that a man who was a reality TV star for the better part of probably 10 years, who participated in world wrestling events, did anybody really think that man would be a true president of the United States? Today we had Congress, or the House, just voted out Dodd-Frank after the disaster of 2007, 2008. Washington, what have they done? Anything substantial in the last 8 years. I mean, it's just Washington as usual, nothing getting done. Partisan, bickering back and forth. If we don't take a little bit of time, step back, catch our breath, we're going to lose one of the greatest, foundations of democracy this world has ever known. It's slipping away from us right now. And we're just standing back. Washington has party, Covfefe coffee. All the aides are sitting in bars at 8 o'clock in the morning, going to be a part of this big party going on, and we're losing our country. It's just fading away, as in the waning days of the, British Empire. And we're going to be the same thing here if we don't step back.
Hey, Dan, how would you describe your politics?
Right now, I'll tell you what, I lean more towards Bernie Sanders of anybody in this country. Bernie, call it socialism, call it what you want to, but I got to lean towards Bernie's politics. He seems to me, when he speaks to the American people, he's one of the few honest politicians that there are in Washington. Angus King, I got to go with Angus, too. But as far as, Illinois here, I've Tammy Duckworth, she's just beginning. And I've contacted her, and I've got to honestly say she's responded to me. Dick Durbin has been around for years and years. I've never heard word from him. And in fact, when I've called his aides, they've tried to get me off the phone as fast as they could.
All right, Dan in Lincoln, Illinois, thanks for your time this evening. Tom in Huntington Beach, California, on the Republican line. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, how's it going out there? I watched the hearing today, and frankly, I'm watching this, and I'm going, this guy, this FBI director is pathetic. I can't even believe that he was ever in charge of anything. This guy doesn't even know how to respond to anything. My dad's a cop, and he's a retired LAPD cop, and he was telling me during the Hillary inquiry that they went over that the FBI's law enforcement position is not to even make judgment on it like he was doing. He was making judgment calls on this. He's supposed to just either file the case or not file the case. So that's already wrong there. And then there's a thousand active terrorist case in this country right now. And why aren't they investigating why the FBI hasn't investigated these terrorists who are ready to kill us here in this country? Nobody seems to want to talk about that. And then you want to talk about election manipulations. What about Obama when he manipulated the Israeli election for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? How come we're not investigating that? Maybe we should have an investigation on that one too.
Tom, one of your senators, Dianne Feinstein, serves on the Intelligence Committee. Did you see her questioning today?
Well, yeah, I thought she made some good points on it, but I don't support her. I'm a conservative. I don't support her at all. She's like this state of California is we live in a communist state here in California.
That's Tom in Huntington Beach, California. And here's a little bit of Senator Feinstein from this morning.
Mr. Comey, I just want you to know that I have great respect for you. Senator Cornyn and I sit on the Judiciary Committee, so we have occasion to have you before us. And I know that you're a man of strength and integrity. And I really regret the situation that we all find ourselves in. I just want to say that. Let me begin with one overarching question. Why do you believe you were fired?
I guess I don't know for sure. I believe I think the president had his word that I was fired because of the Russia investigation. Something about the way I was conducting it, the president felt created pressure on him that he wanted to relieve. Again, I didn't know that at the time, but I've watched his interview. I've read the press accounts of his conversations, so I take him at his word there. Now, look, I could be wrong. Maybe he's saying something that's not true, but I take him at his word, at least based on what I know now.
Talk for a moment about his request that you pledge loyalty and your response to that and what impact you believe that had.
I don't know for sure. because I don't know the president well enough to read him well. I think it was, first of all, our relationship didn't get off to a great start, given the conversation I had to have on January 6th. This was not, this didn't improve the relationship because it was very, very awkward. He was asking for something and I was refusing to give it. But again, I don't know him well enough to know how he reacted to that exactly.
Do you believe the Russia investigation played a role?
And why I was fired?
Yes.
Yes, because I've seen the president say so.
Let's go to the Flynn issue. Senator Risch outlined, I hope you could see your way to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go. But you also said in your written remarks, and I quote, that you had understood the president to be requesting that we drop any investigation of Flynn in connection with false statements about his conversations with the Russian ambassador in December, end quote. Please go into that with more detail.
Well, the context and the president's words are what led me to that conclusion. As I said in my statement, I could be wrong, but Flynn had been forced to resign.
I am getting so, what's been going on since this last election has got to be the worst thing I have ever seen in my life. I'm 77 years old. I, all my life, was a Democrat. I have never seen this type of behavior from day one after the election of a new president between college kids and the violence and the hatred that is going on, I personally think is terrible. As far as Mr. Comey, I really feel that he's still extremely upset from the investigations or the matter that Loretta Lynch said, that he went before the committee and Trey Gowdy made very, very clear who and what James Comey was doing and what he did. He enumerated every single thing that she did that was illegal, which was part of my changing my party affiliation.
For whom did you vote? For whom did you vote in November?
I voted for Mr. Trump. He's our president. That's another thing I'm quite angry with the Democrats about, being a Democrat all my life. Absolutely. This is the person you gave us to vote for? With all of her baggage, this is the person you gave us to vote for. What are you so angry about? What is all this anger?
So, Ann, what do you think the next step should be in this investigation?
I think the next step in this investigation, which doesn't seem even possible anymore, we're in a situation now where there are no manners. There's so much fighting between both sides that it becomes very, very, very obvious to me that years ago, they could fight like cats and dogs, but they were all interested in the country. What's happening now, or us taxpayers, who not only pay their salaries, but are trying to pay off this debt. I don't understand when you have men like Cummings, for instance, who is so angry and so upset and carrying on about, and God love him, believe me, I marched in anything that had to do with Martin Luther King. And I wish that Obama wouldn't even mention his name. In my opinion, he has no right to even join in on that man's name. He got beat up by Democrats. Democrats were in charge at the time when he got beat up on that bridge. And the way he makes it...
Tell you, Ann, before we get too far off course here, I'm going to have to say goodbye and thank you for calling in this evening and watching. Eddie in West Creek, New Jersey, independent line. We want to make sure to get as many voices in as we can tonight. Hi, Eddie.
Yeah, hi. My name is Eddie, and I was born and raised in New York. I lived in Queens for a while. I know Trump for a long time. I don't know him personally, but I know he built a Walman ring in Central Park and it was screwed up. He did a lot of great things in New York City with real estate. So the guy is not a dope. He knows what's going on. So today when I heard Paul Ryan say that he's a novice, he doesn't understand what's going on, he's new at this, I took exception to that, basically. I saw Jim Comey talk. It seemed to me like it'd be a straight shooter. He has aggravated the Democrats because of the Hillary Clinton thing in July. He's aggravating the Republicans at this point in time. The main thing I think about, because of Donald Trump in New York City, when you tell everyone to get out of the room, everyone gets out of the room. And when he sits there and says to you, I hope you can take care of this for me, there's a certain connotation to that, at least from a New York point of view, sort of like what Governor Christie said the other day. He did something, and we call it in New York City putting the arm on somebody. So I believe that Donald Trump did try to influence Comey to get rid of the investigation, and he did it in a way that I would call plausible deniability. I hope all these senators today said, it was he hoped. What does hope mean? It means to me plausible deniability. I think the last two things that we'll find out whether, in fact, Donald Trump was trying to do something or not is when they get Coates and Rogers in closed session and find out, in fact, if Mr. Trump asked them to talk to Comey. They said they weren't pressured, but they didn't say that nobody talked to them. And it just seems... I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Eddie. Go ahead and conclude.
Oh, no, that basically, I just think that Trump is smarter than what they give him credit for as far as being in the government. I know the government has their own special protocols and stuff, but if you're going to call everybody out of a room and whisper in their ear or tell them closely with no one else listening on, take care of this, that doesn't seem right to me.
All right. Thank you for calling in. From the Miami Herald, Marco Rubio is on the committee, and he did some questioning. But the Herald reports that the other Florida senator, Democrat Bill Nelson, sat in the crowd as a spectator and leaned back in his front row chair with a smile during Rubio's questioning. After the hearing, Senator Nelson and Rubio both said Attorney General Jeff Sessions should testify before the Intelligence Committee. Sessions, a former Alabama senator and Trump ally, recused himself. Quote, the Attorney General will hopefully answer some questions on a number of topics, Rubio said to reporters, and Nelson, who is not a member of the committee, said he was stunned by what he had heard on Thursday. Quote, let me give you my strongest impression. The testimony was riveting, and I was riveted when Comey answered that he took copious and detailed notes because he felt the president would lie. That was stunning. That's Senator Bill Nelson, Democrat of Florida. And this is Kay, who is a Republican in Middleburg, Florida. Kay, you're on C-SPAN.
Yes, I've been listening to all your other people that's been talking, and it makes you think about a lot of things. But I just wanted to say that I know President Trump came in and his promise is to drain the swamp. And I believe that if Jim Comey had done his job to start with, part of the swamp would already been taken care of because all the Clintons would be behind bars and maybe Obama. When you've got an Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, Obama, and Hillary Clinton saying that we have to resist, and Lynch is saying, yeah, and some people might have to die. What are they calling for in this country? Kill the American people? I don't trust any of them, and it's just pathetic what's going on in our country today.
Kay, did you see your Senator Marco Rubio today at the hearing?
Excuse me?
Did you see your Senator Marco Rubio today at the hearing?
I sure did.
How did you do?
I sure did, and I'm proud of Senator Rubio. It's just, I can't think of the guy with Nancy Pelosi that all they've done is fight Trump ever since he walked in there and demean the man. There's no support for him. All they do is degrade him and all of his family. If they would just give him a chance, they might find a greater America that's ahead for all of us. But as long as all this division, and I believe that Comey has as much of a hand in that as any of the rest of them, why should only some people go to jail and not everybody go to jail for all the laws? Why doesn't the law apply to all the people?
That's Kay in Middleburg, Florida, on the Republican line. Back to the Miami Herald. Senator Rubio, who dined with the president earlier this week, pushed Comey hard about his conversations with Trump, in which the president asked about the ongoing investigation. Quote, just to be clear, for you to make a public statement that he was not under investigation would not have been illegal, but you felt it made no sense because it could potentially create a duty to correct if circumstances changed, Rubio said. That's a little bit from Marco Rubio's testimony, or his questioning. Susan's in Boise, Idaho, Democrat. Hi, Susan.
Hi. I am prior military and civil service, and I do believe what Mr. Comey said. When you have to remember the president is the boss, and when somebody politely says that they would like that to be taken care of, you take it as an order. I can't believe that I understand his rapport with what he did, and still being, it's not a direct order, but it was still from his point of view and from mine as being in the military and civil service, that was an order. And I do believe in that what he did the right thing when he said that there was hacks into all these places. I was a victim of that. The Office of Personnel Management was hacked, and my personal information was stolen. So I know that if you went back and looked last year at all the things that were hacked into, I bet you, they said China or whoever, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't the Russians who did that also.
And I think former Director Comey said right off the bat he had no doubt that the Russians were involved in the election obstruction. Tony is in Bolingbrook, Illinois, Independent Line. Good evening, Tony.
Good evening. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say I think that people are speaking about Comey and why he didn't stand up to the president, but in my personal opinion, I agree with a lot of folks. You've got to understand, he's still Comey with Bush and with Obama. And to come in and see what Trump was bringing to him in a private room, it probably was shocking to him because it was so unprofessional. America has certain standards, and the whole entire world looks at us. And I'm independent, but I was totally shocked at how we're lowering our standards, how we're letting a president call people crooked Hillary or call Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas. It's like as if he's a schoolyard bully and he's running a business as far as a family business. But this is a democracy, and we really need to understand what was his connection so big with Russia that he would bring them into the Oval Office, an enemy, a Cold War enemy, into the Oval Office, plus must not show us his taxes. So that has me concerned as an American, that we're going down. We're not showing a standard. We're losing our democracy. And I really do feel very happy that Comey stood up and spoke. And I really do think we need to dig further into this and get our country back straight to the leadership that it was before.
That's Tony in Bolingbrook, Illinois. Here is tomorrow's cover of the New York Daily News. You can see the president's picture on there with the word liar printed across his face. Diana, Killeen, Texas, Republican line, you're on the air.
Hi.
What's your reaction?
Hi. Oh, well, I'm trying. I took notes.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm a Republican. I completely support Donald Trump. If I had to crawl to the voting booth on my hands and knees, I will forever vote Republican after everything that has been happening and everything that's taken course. I'm outraged at the way our president is being treated, and I'm so glad for the half of the country that voted for him. The whole Russia bit, even if the president at first didn't know whether to believe it or not, those things started in July of 2016. So they should have already been all over it at that time when Obama was still in office, but they let it go until Trump becomes elected. Then all of a sudden they want to make a big deal about it. Every Democrat loved Comey when the Hillary emails came out. But now that he got fired, all of a sudden they're completely against him. It was just POTUS and Comey in that office. I believe POTUS. I think that the Democrats look for anything that they can to stall all of the things that our president is trying to do. They wouldn't even get his officials, his staff, into the office. I've never seen anything like this in politics, ever. I knew politics was a dirty business. I was an independent, and I'm a Republican now. I'll be a Republican for life after this. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. He has such a tough job to do, and to go in every day against all of this with no support from anyone, I'm outraged. And I'm a Republican now. I'll be a Republican for life after this. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. He has such a tough job to do, and to go in every day against all of this with no support from anyone, I'm outraged.
That's Diana in Killeen, Texas. Let's take another call, and then we're going to show you a little bit more of the hearing. Martin's in York, Maine. Hi, Martin. Democrat.
Hi, how you doing?
Both of your senators are on the committee.
I'm a Democrat. I'm a history professor. I worked in the White House a long time ago.
For whom?
So I know my way around that place a little bit.
For whom, Martin?
I voted for Trump. I like his policies. I do not like the way he executes them. I think he is a bull in the china shop. And if the Democrats were very smart, what they would do is nominate a man like James Comey for president, because obviously he's honest. I don't think Trump committed any impeachable crimes. Dershowitz on that, who, by the way, is also a good friend of mine. I just think there's nothing there in the Russian thing. It's just not there. So there's no criminal act. But the Democrats have left people like me a long time ago in the lurch. They put people up for president who shouldn't be president. Obama should not have been the president of the United States. He wasn't qualified. Hillary Clinton, well, what can you say about Hillary Clinton? You go back, there's so much smoke in her life. There's obviously fire somewhere. So, yeah, I voted for Trump, but not happily, and it's cost me a lot of friendships academically, and half the year I live in Florida. So when I'm down in Florida, I have a lot of friends. When I'm back in New England, I lose a lot of friends. So, if the Democrats were smart, like I said, they would nominate James Comey for the president of the United States, and he would win.
So, Martin, for whom did you work in the White House, and what kind of work did you do?
I worked for John Warner, who was the Secretary of the Navy at the time. He was the
Republican former senator from Virginia.
Right, that's right. He was chairman of the Bicentennial Presidential Commission that I was a historian on.
So under President Ford?
Under President Nixon and President Ford, yes.
Okay.
A Democrat, and they hired Democrats in those days, believe it or not.
And
I was a McGovern Democrat back then.
What kind of work are you doing today?
Well, I'm semi-retired, but I still teach. When I'm in Florida, I teach every other semester.
Okay. Final question, just given the fact that you're a history professor. Philip Lacovera has an op-ed in the Washington Post. It'll be in tomorrow's print page. But it's, "I helped prosecute Watergate. Comey's statement is sufficient evidence for an obstruction of justice case." Is there in your view, is there a comparison to Watergate here?
No, there is no comparison to Watergate, because obviously if you've read the presidential transcripts from Watergate, there is obstruction of justice. Hoping that somebody drops... Now listen, Trump said things that he shouldn't have said, obviously. But did he try to obstruct the investigation? That's a stretch. A long stretch. It is not there. As Alan Dershowitz has said, there is no criminal activity in the Oval Office. There has been none. Now, do I like the way he conducts the presidency, even though I voted for him? No, I despise it. Do I like his policies? Yes, I like his policies. but I do not like the way he acts as the President of the United States. I wish I was still there so I could sit down with this guy and say, Mr. President, you shouldn't do the things you do. Stop tweeting. Stop saying the stupid things that you say. You could be a great president. Just be presidential.
Martin, Susan Collins and Angus King, your two senators, are both on the Intel Committee. What did you think of their questioning today?
I didn't hear it, so I can't comment.
All right, that's Martin in York, Maine. Up next, let's hear what Senator Roy Blunt, a Republican from Missouri, had to ask former Director Comey.
Mr. Comey, when you were terminated at the FBI, I said and still continue to feel that you have provided years of great service to the country. I also said that I'd had significant questions over the last year about some of the decisions you made. If the president hadn't terminated your service, would you still be, in your opinion, the director of the FBI today?
Yes, sir.
So you took as a direction from the president something that you thought was serious and troublesome, but continued to show up for work the next day.
Yes, sir.
And 6 weeks later, we're telling the president on March the 30th that he was not personally the target of any investigation.
Correct. On March the 30th, and I think again on April
1980 in Plant City, Florida, PAD, problems with democracy. Okay? The bottom line here, in my view, as a middle-class American, I've been a Democrat all my life. When Obama came in, I went independent, and these are for my various own personal reasons. Government has always been run, Congress, the Senate, the Capitol, everything has always been run with programs to oversee programs. Mr. Comey did exactly as anyone in good conscience would do. He's isolated off. There's a discussion. The discussion is like the mafia leaning. I don't care who says Trump what. The bottom line here is he was taken off and he was told, this is what I want. And because he did not get an answer, Trump that is, immediately from Comey, then Comey's fired. Well, Comey took notes. It's very out of the ordinary. It is totally, the whole thing is shady. And that is why Comey did what he did. And I commend him. He has been in his office. He has done an impeccable job for 30 years. Anybody that questions him or how he conducted this by passing it on is an idiot, period. He is doing everything in his power to expose what is going on in our government. We have a showman for a president. And I'm not saying Hillary would have been better. I didn't vote at all. And again, I will soon be 55. I am a middle-class working American. This government has just completely come off the chain. I have been voting all my life. I wouldn't have voted for Hillary either. But things are off the chain, and the whole world is watching our nation fall apart at its feet. And as far as I'm concerned, I feel like we have Bobo the Clown for a president. He is completely obnoxious. The bullying on the playground is an exact statement. He is
Yvonne, we're going to leave it there from Pulaski, Tennessee. Well, one of the more memorable moments during the hearing is when former Director Comey said, "Lordy, I hope there will be tapes." He was reacting to a tweet that President Trump sent out on May 12th. James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. That's from the president. Well, a woman who tweets, her name is Rowena Jones. She sent out this tweet. "It might just be your lucky day. Give it 24 hours and someone will have made one of these, #Lordy." And you can see the t-shirt there that says, "Lordy, I hope there are tapes." Camille's in New Rochelle, New York, Republican line. Hi, Camille.
Yeah, hi, how are you doing?
Please go ahead and make your comment. What did you think of today's hearing?
Comment that Comey should not be director of FBI from the beginning. What kind of a man who cannot sit with the president and talk to the president alone? First. Second, the president of the United States is elected to do what is right for the United States. He can order anybody anything. because he is responsible. When he sees someone doing the wrong thing and the wrong investigation, he should tell him, look, just like if you are working and your chairman call you, or your president or your editor call you and tell you you're going the wrong way, you should drop that. What is wrong with that? Second, imagine if Comey was a prisoner of war. Right away, he's going to give all the answers and everything. He gets shaken. So what is the problem that the president sit with anyone alone? If he called a session alone and tell him you want to sit with him alone, what's wrong with that?
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks for calling in. Let's hear from Kay, another New Yorker, this one from Schenectady, Democrats line. Hi, Kay.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. My name is Quay. I watched the hearing today twice because I really didn't want to miss anything. And just to let you know, I have spent an hour or 2 hours every day since the election because I was traumatized when Trump was elected. And I have not been able to recover from that trauma. So I've been following him and reading and researching on my own because I just can't even believe it. And what I think that everybody is missing, I've listened to all your comments, what I think everybody is missing, and today they alluded to, Comey alluded to it, and yesterday the 4 people that they had another hearing about alluded to it, that there's an investigation going on that is Russian-based, and there's a lot of information that they have already gathered that we don't know about. We're not privy to. And that is what I contend, is that the reason why Trump is trying to shut everybody up and, fire Comey and all of this is because he doesn't want us to know that he has been dealing with the Russians for years. For years. Some of the oligarchs over there, he has money tied up with them, and he does not want that. His Jared Kushner, a whole bunch of them that are in his cabinet are entwined with the Russians.
Hey, Quay, you mentioned that you've spent a couple hours a day since the election researching or going online or meditating or something. What have you been doing? What's your stress level like here 5 months later?
Well, I feel like it's, finally today was the beginning of the end. I do believe that in all earnestness that this man needs to be convicted, he needs to be impeached, and he needs to be prosecuted and put in prison for treason.
Do you think that's going to happen?
I hope so.
And if it doesn't?
I think that many of his cabinet members are going to drop like flies because they can be, indicted. And I think that it's going to be way bigger than Watergate. And I understand Watergate, there were 48 indictments. I mean, they're talking that this is much bigger than that, and I can see it. I can see it. I can feel it in my
Quay,
gut.
when you're not researching this, what are you doing?
I'm living my life.
Do you work?
Nope. I'm retired. I sing. I paint. I do a lot of things. I have lots of friends. I travel. I enjoy my life.
Do you have
I do spend an hour or so keeping up with this stuff because every day there's something new.
Do you have any friends that supported Donald Trump?
How did that happen? Really?
I'm sorry?
If I put it aside, every day there's some crisis or some drama that's happening.
Quay, do you have any friends who supported Donald Trump?
Do I have friends that supported Donald Trump?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I do know some people who did, but they're not really my friends. Nope.
All right. Thanks for sharing your views with us. Cynthia is calling in from Davidson, North Carolina, independent third-party line. Cynthia, you are on C-SPAN. What's your reaction to today's hearing?
My reaction is, I guess, that what I took away from it is that, Comey testified that President Trump was not being investigated. So all these callers that keep calling in and making reference to the collusion with Russia. Well, he said today, during the investigation, or he said yesterday, a couple of days ago, that he was not under investigation. So I don't understand why that is still a topic. I also am glad that President Trump tweets, because when he tweets out what the media refuses to report, all the work he's done for the veterans, the infrastructure that he's doing with the airports, all this stuff, the campaign promises, he's following through with. The media's not picking any of that stuff up. They just keep reporting on the distractions. I don't trust Comey. He did not tell the truth with Hillary Clinton and all the emails. He let her slide. He did not prosecute her. He investigated her again only because of the New York Police Department seizing Anthony Weiner's computer laptop due to the child sex investigation. That's the only reason that got reopened. Comey didn't do it. He was kind of forced to do it. His hand was forced. So I totally support President Trump. I don't buy into all the distractions that it seems like a lot of these other callers do. A lot of the older generation don't understand the social media and the tweeting and what it is. It's actually President Trump, his way to circumvent the fake news that's out there, and he goes directly to the people, and I appreciate that.
Cynthia, were you hoping he would tweet during former Director Comey's testimony?
He did send some tweets.
But unrelated to that. He didn't send any tweets out on the testimony.
Right. I don't recall anything right now.
But were you hoping he would?
I hope he tweets all the time. That's where I get my news. So, you know what I'm saying? That leads me to follow up on different topics is what he tweets out. I also follow Kellyanne Conway. She tweets a lot of good information that the media does not report.
All right. Thanks for calling in. Now, we're taking your reaction tonight, and we'll be here for another hour and a half or so. On C-SPAN 2, we're replaying the hearing in its entirety. And then at 11 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, we're going to replay the hearing as well on C-SPAN. Tomorrow morning on the Morning Washington Journal from 7 to 10 a.m., your reaction to the former Director Comey's testimony at the Senate Intelligence Committee. All 3 hours will be devoted to hearing from you and to hearing your views. Well, Mark Warner is a Democrat from Virginia. He is the vice chair or the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee. Here's what he had to say to Director Comey.
And again, Director Comey, thank you for your service and your comments to your FBI family. I know were heartfelt. Know that even though there are some in the administration who've tried to smear your reputation, you had Acting Director McCabe in public testimony a few weeks back and in public testimony yesterday reaffirm that the vast majority of the FBI community had great trust in your leadership and obviously trust in your integrity. I want to go through a number of the meetings that you referenced in your testimony. And let's start with the January 6th meeting in Trump Tower, where you went up with a series of officials to brief the President-elect on the Russia investigation. My understanding is you remained afterwards to brief him on, again, quote, some personally sensitive aspects of the information you relayed. Now, you said after that briefing, you felt compelled to document that conversation, that you actually started documenting it as soon as you got into the car. Now, you've had extensive experience at the Department of Justice and at the FBI. You've worked under presidents of both parties. What was it about that meeting that led you to determine that you needed to start putting down a written record?
A combination of things. I think the circumstances, the subject matter, and the person I was interacting with. Circumstances first, I was alone with the President of the United States, or the President-elect, soon to be President. The subject matter, I was talking about matters that touch on the FBI's core responsibility and that relate to the President-elect personally. And then the nature of the person. I was honestly concerned that he might lie about the nature of our meeting, and so I thought it really important to document. That combination of things I'd never experienced before, but it led me to believe I got to write it down, and I got to write it down in a very detailed way.
I think that's a very important statement you just made. And my understanding is that then, again, unlike your dealings with presidents of either parties in your past experience, in every subsequent meeting or conversation with this president, you created a written record. Did you feel that you needed to create this written record of these memos because they might need to be relied on at some future date?
Sure. I created records after conversations, and I think I did it after each of our 9 conversations. If I didn't, I did it for nearly all of them, especially the ones that were substantive. I knew that there might come a day when I would need a record of what had happened, not just to defend myself, but to defend the FBI and our integrity as an institution and the independence of our investigative function. That's what made this so difficult, is it was a combination of circumstances, subject matter, and the particular person.
And so in all your experience, this was the only president that you felt like in every meeting you needed to document, because at some point, using your words, he might put out a non-truthful representation of that meeting. Now,
that's right, Senator. And I, as I said in my written testimony, as FBI director, I interacted with President Obama, and I spoke only twice in 3 years and didn't document it. When I was Deputy Attorney General, I had one-on-one meeting with President Bush about a very important and difficult national security matter. I didn't write a memo documenting that conversation either. Sent a quick email to my staff to let them know there was something going on. But I didn't feel with President Bush the need to document it in that way. Again, because the combination of those factors just wasn't present with either President Bush or President Obama.
I think that is very significant. I think others will probably question that. Now, the chairman and I have requested those memos. It is our hope that the FBI will get this committee access to those memos so that, again, we can read that contemporaneous rendition so that we've got your side of the story. Now, I know members have said and press have said that if you were, a great deal has been made of whether the president, you are asked to, in effect, indicate whether the president was the subject of any investigation. And my understanding is prior to your meeting on January 6th, you discussed with your leadership team whether or not you should be prepared to assure then President-elect Trump that the FBI was not investigating him personally. Now, my understanding is your leadership team agreed with that, but was that a unanimous decision? Was there any debate about that?
It wasn't unanimous. One of the members of the leadership team had a view that although it was technically true, we did not have a counterintelligence file case open on then President-elect Trump. His concern was because we're looking at the potential, again, that's the subject of the investigation, coordination between the campaign and Russia, because it was President-elect Trump's campaign, this person's view was inevitably his behavior, his conduct will fall within the scope of that work, and so he was reluctant to make the statement that I made. I disagreed. I thought it was fair to say what was literally true. There is not a counterintelligence investigation of Mr. Trump, and I decided in the moment